Steve, Brooke, super nice to have you. Thanks for coming on to the Rev Your Agency podcast with Peter and I.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I'm super excited to have y'all. Peter, I'm at an advantage. Peter has no idea who the hell y'all are.
That's not true. I have watched videos of Steve.
Lucky guy.
I have.
So yeah, as soon as Peter was like, who's this? Who's Steve and who's Brooke? And I was like, oh, this is Retirement Analyzer. He was like, oh, heck yes, this is going to be a phenomenal chat. So would you both maybe take a quick moment, introduce yourselves? If you like long walks on the beach, what kind of toothpaste do you prefer? Just anything a person would want to know.
Okay.
Go first.
Sure. I'll kick it off. Well, again, thank you for having us. Probably the thing that people find the most interesting about me is that I was born and raised on a cattle ranch. I played college volleyball, and that we are a big rodeo family. So the horse thing tends to pique everybody's interest. In fact, what you've got when you marry Steve and I together, I'm super country, obviously, and Steve is super Wall Street trader for 20 plus years, city guy. So we really have kind of both ends of the spectrum there.
A bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll.
Exactly.
Yeah, I grew up. I was a trader on Wall Street for 22 years in New York City and in Philadelphia actually. But it's always been about numbers. And I kind of met my match when it came to numbers with Brooke and the program. I don't know, Brooke, if you want to tell the story a little bit about how we got started, maybe for a few minutes.
Yeah,
Go for
definitely. So Steve and I both come from the personal production side of the world. And so, I started in this industry at 23 years old with virtually no sales experience. And Chuck Cravens was the original guy that created Retirement Analyzer. And he brought me in, trained me on everything software, and sent me out in the field. And I had a lot of success using his platform. So we packaged it up. We started taking it to FMOs. And there is where I met Steve. He was actually running a big FMO that was purchasing the software. And unfortunately, we lost Chuck super unexpectedly. When that happened, Steve and I purchased the program from Chuck's wife, and we've really since that time just tried to create platforms that make advisors' lives easier. I know a big pain point for a lot of these folks, they're using 15 different software platforms, and that's tough. It's tough to marry it all together. And so Steve and I have, tried to create a CRM within Retirement Analyzer. We've tried to put all the models and things that they need within RA, where it eliminates having to use so many platforms.
Yeah. And and we get to talk to, high level advisors around the country all day, every day. We have over 5,000 users of the software program, and the amount of support that's necessary, you guys would be amazed. I mean, the amount of calls that come into our, we call it a power line. We actually support the software. We encourage you to call in. All right. People are going to have problems. There's all kinds of moving parts in a financial plan. Advisors, they want to do right for their clients. What should we put here? What should we put where? How do we, pop in a non-qualified investment account? Where does it go? How do I show this to a client? So not only do we compose the software solutions, we support the heck out of them. We really go over the top when it comes to service and support and training too, because we want to make sure that, our users get the most out of everything that we put together. So real important to us that way.
Yeah, I know. I was actually just talking to Brian Green, who I believe introduced us, Steve.
Yeah.
I was just talking to him yesterday, and we were having a chat. We were about to go get some ham sandwiches together virtually. And he's like, oh, crap, I got to jump off here, jump in Retirement Analyzer and punch in some numbers because I got a presentation to do. And I know he's expressed to me over what, the year, 2 years, 3 years he's been using y'all software, how appreciative he is, not only of what it does, but the facts. So you mentioned support, because with software, that's the number one. Everybody, road to hell is paved with good intentions, and everybody has
Yeah.
good intentions, right? But the fact, like the sheer amount of training and support, and I kind of feel like what we do in our mastermind is unprecedented in regards to training and support on life insurance and annuity production and those things. In your field with software, especially presentation softwares and building that up, you've got the CRM. I think it's unprecedented. I don't know anyone else doing what you're doing with the ongoing training and support.
I think it's huge just because I feel like as an advisor, a lot of times you feel like you're on an island. And, when you're crunching numbers in a platform and you cannot make sense of them, and then you go to call the tech company and nobody answers the phone. That is super, super frustrating. And those people, when they're trying to prep for those meetings, they need answers and they need them right now. And so that is one thing that Steve and I decided early on in purchasing the company to make sure that we always have people that can answer the phone. They're knowledgeable, they know how to build the product in and make it, shine and do the things that advisors need it to do. So that's really, really key for us.
And to add to that too, I mean, this is a living, breathing. I mean, this thing it changes all the time. We've been in a continuous development for the last 15 years, and probably will be for the next 10. And so we don't take the core processes, alleviating the red line and helping clients to a better retirement away, but we're always adding new bells and whistles and buttons to help with efficiency and things like that. But advisors have to know how to answer any possible what if question that comes in from right field from a client. Client is not going to contract to work with you unless you have the answers. I mean, you can't go through an appointment without answers, right? You're supposed to be the advisor, and RA, I'm pretty confident saying this, gives you the ability to answer any of those questions that come in for right field within a couple of keystrokes. That's what's so good about it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I know we tell folks all the time, like, hey, you need to know all this. You'd be a fool to just, oral diarrhea and just give that all out to a client all at once. They don't want to know all of it. But when they ask a question, you better dang well have an answer, or be able to tell them, look, I don't have that in front of me. Can you give me an hour? Can you give me 2 hours? I will get back with you with a competent answer. I think that brings more credibility than almost anything in this business.
I think it also solves for one of, I think, is the biggest problems in our industry is lack of mentorship. I was very fortunate that I had a fantastic mentor when I started, that when I did my initial fact finding with a client, he went on joint appointments with me. And then when I branched out and started doing my own, great, I'd go off and do the appointment, and then Cliff and I would sit down together and I'd go, okay, this is the data that I gathered. What am I missing? What are the opportunities here? And so I had him for that instant feedback, but I'm in the minority. There's very few agents that get started in this business that have that. And not only that from a nuts and bolts on, hey, this is how this thing worked, but like you said, from the technology standpoint on, hey, I need to illustrate something differently, or I have all of this raw data. How do I make it show the most important portions of the data, right? Having the software is great, but the software is only good. It's like a gym membership. It's only good if you use it, right? And you're only going to use it if it's intuitive and you can get the answers that you need. That's where the value is being able to actually utilize it. So having, like, I know you guys do, is it daily calls that you do the support for?
Yeah, we do. We do a live webinar every day at 10 a.m. Central. We have a power hour. And then, so every day we have over an hour of live training, at least at minimum, an hour of live training.
Yeah, and that's huge, because that is the key that unlocks the door. Having access to the software is great, but if you don't know how to utilize it, or you're not comfortable, or maybe you're only using a fraction of a percent of what it can do, having somebody there that's competent, that is fluent in how to speak tech and insurance, and go, no, click here, click here, click here, and this is what you get. That really is the key that unlocks that door, I think, that makes it different.
Yeah, and a lot of these trainings they don't have agendas. Okay, so what we do, and it's kind of comical, right? We open up a webinar and we wait for you to come in. And you want to share a file? We'll share a file. It's all about you. We take you in order of, the order that you came in on. And I got to tell you, I mean, we have newbies coming to our power hours, and they get their, their wings, and they start to move, and they you don't see them much anymore. And then Brooke and I host a Success in 60 on Fridays, and that's more the seasoned retirement analyzer users. But I got to tell you, like, talking to your users, like Brooke and I do, I think it's so good for us, because that software program, the retirement analyzer, is bits and pieces of all the feedback that we've gotten from our base over the last 15 years. So they've actually built the program through their suggestions, which I think is good,
Yeah.
So I know this is kind of switching topic, but I've been known to do that from time to time.
Once or twice.
What led you to this place in your life where you were like, hey, we're going to build a software? Because I'm sure when you were 7 years old, you weren't riding your tricycle and you're like, hey, I want to build out insurance and financial software when I grow up. Nobody's ever said that. Not since the dawn of man. What led you to thinking, hey, this is what I want to do and it's going to be fulfilling and drive
Can I be
value for them?
honest?
Yeah.
Barrel
Please.
horses. That sounds really strange, but Chuck's daughter rode really nice horses and had a lot of really fancy pickups and trailers and horses. And that got my attention when I was young. And so basically, I was just young enough and dumb enough to just jump in with both feet and do whatever Chuck told me to do. So, like I said, I started on personal production, but then when Chuck died, there was this whole software company, and I was the only one that had ever talked to the programmers and that had ever really dealt with that kind of thing. So that's how I got there.
Man, that's awesome. That reminds me of that scene from Wolf of Wall Street where he sees the nice car and he walks in and he's like, "How much do you make?" Whatever it is, you tell me what to do and I'll quit my job right now. That's what that reminds me of. So speaking of Wall Street, Steve, what got you into this? Because I'm sure as a 7-year-old, you weren't thinking that either.
I wasn't, but I know this might sound cliche or whatever, but I really do love helping people. I love teaching. Okay. I was on Wall Street. You have to crunch numbers so fast. If not, you're losing money on the trading crowd. I was one of those lunatics with the different colored jackets, buying and selling with hand signals for 22 years. But after that, when things slow down a little bit, you get a little bit older, what can you give back? I get a kick out of it. And I know Brooke does too. When our advisors actually call us and say, hey, look, you know what? Thank you for all the help. We just closed the sale and we helped so-and-so to a better retirement. There's something about that intrinsically rewarding feeling you get when that happens. And it keeps us going. It keeps us composing the software, making it better. But Brooke and I, we had our own practices. We helped some people, but Brooke, I think, with the amount of advisors we have what, about 1.5 million client files in our software now. And we've helped so many more people. So I like the helping part of it, the intrinsically rewarding feeling you get, but then it's ballooned into this, and we're pretty happy that it turned out the way it did.
That's awesome. Do y'all ever, Peter, I don't mean to railroad the conversation, but I have so many questions and I'm so intrigued. So, I mean, step on my toes if you need to. Have you all ever run into you talk about client files? I know some of these companies that I've worked for in the past. I started as a captive multi-line with a company that also had an independent channel through ING, both in the life insurance and pension planning side of things. And then I moved into the independent space after that. And one of the biggest roadblocks I found both in my career and then we run a mastermind. We've got almost 5,000 people in this mastermind at this point. One of the biggest roadblocks to getting them to adopt quality systems and processes, quality technologies is they will say, hey, well, my carrier, my broker dealer, my what FMO, I am not allowed to have any data anywhere. I can't transfer anything out. And so you mentioned client files. Has that been a barrier for you at all? Or how have you overcome that in working with the broker dealers, the FMOs, the insurance carriers and the banks to be able to house that information, be compliant, and not get their agents and advisors in trouble?
Yeah. Well, knock on wood, we haven't had any problems in the 15 years, and we don't foresee having any problems, but who knows? I mean, it's a crazy world we live in, but we do take the steps necessary. And I got to tell you, it's a full-time job. Data security and making sure that everything's in the right spot and all the doors are closed and everything's secure. We put a heck of a lot of time into that. We run our penetration tests. We get our reports. We check and double check and triple check just to make sure that everything that Brooke and I have built so far is going to be there tomorrow. I mean, it's very, very important to us, but it definitely is a full-time job, and the processes that you have to go through just to make sure as your company gets bigger that everything's safe. And there's a lot of client confidential information in any software program or most software programs. And that's something that you have to do. And so we've, Brooke, I don't know how long our new platform has been in place for like 2 or 3 years now, I think, where we have
Yeah, where we do basically the constant penetration test. Yes. But then another big thing, you mentioned the broker dealers and whatnot. We do have a FINRA letter. And so we decided to just tackle that head on as well. We get that updated. We work a lot with compliant just to make sure everything's very, up and up and people aren't going to have trouble. So we really, knock on wood, like Steve said, we have not had any hiccups thus far.
Oh, that's incredible. I know it's crazy because you see, especially with some of these white label CRMs specifically that pop up, and I think that's where a lot of that issue lies is they're not putting in that work to do that. So you guys are doing daily penetration tests. What does that actually entail? What does that mean?
Well, not daily though, not daily. They're probably happening like 6 to 8 times a year. Okay, and we'll look at a specific part of the application, and basically what happens is they unleash, we unleash bots to try to get in. Yeah, and what we do is we look and we see if anything gets in or not, and we look at the whole program, all the code, everything, just to see what might.
The Russians yet for help with that?
No, we have not gone that route yet.
Well, I digress.
But we'll look at threats and we'll see. Is this a minor threat? Is it a major threat? If it's something that has to be taken care of right away, we do it. We patch it if we have to, and we're always watching though. So again, it's a full time job. We have a unit in our company that handles that though. So Brooke and I can build the.
How much actual sensitive data goes into that platform?
Well, you can look at sensitive data. I mean, they're saying now a birthday is sensitive data, right? We have social security number in our CRM. It's a little different in our software. We don't have account numbers unless the client actually types an account number in. Okay, so you can put the asset and you don't have to have an account number. You don't have any social security numbers in the planning software. But when it comes to CRM, though, we do have social security numbers. It is a different animal. And again, we take the same steps that we take in RA as we do in C3, where we're actually penetration testing the whole deal, and we're making sure that we're secure though. So with gathering that type of information comes a major amount of responsibility, and we don't take that lightly. We don't. It's very, very important to us. And Brooke and I, again, we put so much time into this. We don't want to see something happen, and then all of a sudden, boom, we have a big hiccup. So we spend the time necessary to take care of that and get out in front of it.
What's your audience look like or your users look like? Is it primarily, financial advisors doing AUM? Is it primarily life and annuity agents? Is it a combination thereof? And why would maybe you could touch on why each one of those AUM and the investment advisor, whether they're doing private placements or whatever, versus the insurance agent versus somebody doing a combination of the two. Why would it be valuable for each one of those categories to maybe use a tool like this, I suppose?
When Steve and I started, our bread and butter, we worked directly with FMOs, and we didn't even have individual users at all. And so with that being said, we were really catering to that insurance licensed only producer. And as the years went by, we decided to open up and start allowing people to buy the platform on an individual subscription. With doing that, we created 2 versions of the program. So now we have an insurance license only, and then we call our elite version. That's really for, your 765, people like that. But we have put in so much work into the taxation pieces, really that higher level type of advisor, things that they're going to need, that in my opinion, Stephen, I don't know how you feel, but I think we really cater to both sides of the industry at this point.
I think after 15 years, you know how I feel, but I'm with you. But you know what they want to do? They want to be as accurate as possible. I'm so proud of our RA community of advisors. They want to get it right. And so what they do is they look at the program, they learn how it works, and then they trust the numbers. And we can always go into the numbers and we can say, hey, look, this one's made up of this, and this. Add these 3 together and you'll get this. And we'll go through and we'll do that all the time. But I got to tell you, overall, they have confidence that, what they're showing a client is going to help them understand. It's simple. The output is simple as long as you explain it the right way. So what happens is you start to teach the client about how finance works and how they can be okay if they happen to live 95. Clients love that. You can answer any kind of what if question they have. You have credibility. They listen to your projections. You sell more products to help enhance their retirements. And that's really why they come to us, It's a track to run on, guys. And then it helps them dot their I's and cross their T's.
So 15 years, and you've mentioned this several times, 15 years, you've been working on it. All this feedback that you're getting is being applied for better or worse sometimes, I'm sure. If you had to pick one thing, and I'd ask this of each of you individually, actually, if you had to pick one thing that you were the most proud of that you accomplished or that you implemented or that was added or was subtracted, what would that one thing be?
I'll go first. For me, it's going to be the tax component. So when Chuck passed away, the program didn't have taxation at all. Everything was basically looked at as qualified money. And I just felt like that was not that accurate. And so that was the biggest thing right when he passed that I decided to just, again, take head on and build in that taxation and really break that down. So that was probably the biggest thing for me individually. Steve, I don't know what your answer would be.
Well, the biggest thing for me is how much better our user base is. I mean, they are just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there are some obviously that haven't put the time in to the program like there is in any kind of a program, but the people that take this program and run with it are elite out there. And what makes my day is them taking what we wrote, using it to help people to a better retirement. I'm proud of that. I am. I'm proud of our community because they're darn good, and it's because of the software that they're using and the time they've actually put into, training with us and, coming to our boot camps. I don't think we mentioned too much about that, but we have 2 times a year, we have about an 80-person boot camp. And what we do is we go in there for 2.5 days and we go A to Z retirement analyzer and C3. So these guys are putting a lot of time in. You could call it CE if you want, continuing education, whatever it is, but they put the time into it to understand how the software works. And I got to tell you, I'm proud of them because they're actually providing value to retirees, and it's helping them to a better retirement.
I love
Investing in themselves.
Yeah, I love that in both regards. It's incredible. We do everything we can to teach our side of the ball game as effectively as possible, but it's incredible to me because there are million plus insurance license only agents in the United States, for example, life insurance licensed. And that's statistic I got from NAFA. So if it's wrong, blame NAFA. But it's crazy because out of just our little microcosm, a few thousand agents, the vast majority are raised up with this mentality that if your money's not in life insurance and it's not tax free, and then they learn about a Roth IRA and they're like, okay, well, Roth IRA, and a lot of them still don't understand Roth 401k exists, and you have all these other provisions, but then even more don't understand something as simple as, so talk about taxation, Brooke, and then Steve, your agents and advisors getting the education and then doing it right and having a tool to support that. It's got to be less than 1% of the entire, for example, life insurance only licensed industry even understands that a brokerage account is not entirely taxable. You have capital gains allowances that come out, especially when you're using dividend paying stocks, and you have a lot of tax-free income opportunities nobody even knows about. Now, I would wager that y'all have started to or have entirely accounted for a lot of those things. Your agents and advisors are asking those questions and presenting that information. And so I think that's pretty incredible. I don't know if you can speak to that at all or your experience there, but
Well, I mean, you know what I'll say about that. I'm going to go off of what Brooke was talking a little bit about taxation. But when we started doing this a while back, everybody would run away from it. Carson, everybody would run away from it. Oh, you have to talk to your CPA. And trust me, I know there's times when you really should talk to a CPA, but just general taxation, how does it work? What's the difference between a tax rate and a tax bracket? I mean, you should be able to explain that if your client asks and stuff like that. And then you build into like basis on a non-qualified account and how much over basis is taxed at either long or short-term capital gains. So you we jump into every area, but we've actually simplified it to a point where people understand it. I mean, look at the people who wrote it. How hard could it possibly be, right? Okay, the code. So basically, all you have to do is just spend the time with tax, and you can help clients feel more comfortable moving forward. I mean, they just, you know what it is? People have the attention span of a gnat when you talk to them. If you're not interesting, you don't inject a little humor into it, and then you teach them a thing here and there. I mean, if you don't do that kind of stuff, you're probably not going to get the client. Clients gravitate towards, people who are smart, confident, have some humor, and can explain things in simple fashion. That's my opinion, at least.
so you talk about humor. Do y'all have a go-to joke in your presentation as you're talking about your software? I have go-to jokes in my presentation. I want to hear your go-to jokes.
First of all, we make them guess the age gap between Steve and I. That's always a real winner in the crowd. And then secondly, we always ask why Steve wears his hair spiked.
And
What are the most common answers here? I want to hear some of the answers here.
Okay. Well, Steve, I'm gonna just have to tell everybody that's watching this that Steve has a much younger wife, and he decided to spike his hair to keep up with his younger wife and his very young child.
No, she's not that young anymore, though. I'm 63. I'll give you the numbers, guys. Your numbers, guys, right? I'm 63 and I have a 14-year-old. So, I mean, could I be collecting Social Security while she's under 18? Yeah, I possibly could. Yeah. But not that far out of line,
Nothing wrong with I will tell you, Steve, I've got the most amazing wife on earth. I do anything to keep up with her. So, well, not anything, but most things.
A lot of things.
My Dr. Pepper.
But you know what, though, guys? I'll tell you, in these boot camps, we have a lot of fun. We do. If you're not laughing, if you laugh, you have a good time doing it, you're going to remember everything, we went over. And we have a good time with it. We really do. A lot of jokes. It's 2.5 days of really, I mean, Brooke, I look forward to them. They're really nice.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
We do some boot camps, and we did one in Vegas in 2023, and 2 days intensive. I mean, everybody's brain hurts, and everybody that was there loves it. We keep them very small. It's very workshoppy, very intimate in that regard. And as much as their brains hurt, and I mean, we had some folks in tears. Like we had to like go get fans and plug them in because folks were getting flustered, and the whole thing ended with what was it, Frank's Meats, Peter? Doing a mock-up discovery.
First, I did some role playing on a fact finding, and I was Frank, who specialized in high quality deli meats, and made like $200,000 a year. My wife was a nurse, and she made $30,000 a year, and just ridiculous numbers. But we had a lot of fun with it, and that's what people talk about a year and a half later, 2 years later.
Here's one. Let me give you one. I'll give you one. All right. So at the end of the day, everybody's there for 8.5 hours, almost 9 hours. Okay. Everybody's dragging and ready to go. And what we do is we offer them the ability to go into the night, and then we can cancel the next day. And we always get a good laugh out of that one, if you can imagine. All right. So we're done. You guys want to just do another session, a double, and you can leave, and we won't even bother you tomorrow. And no, they say, no, I'm running and groaning up. I'm going home. But they do come back. So we have fun though, guys. We really do.
So what's the most memorable moment you've had in your journey, not related to necessarily the software, but related to growing the RA business?
That's a good question. I think a big turning point for us, Steve, is when we decided again to open the platform up to individual users and just being able to, I think as an advisor, you don't like to feel married to an FMO for something that you depend on every day. Where, back in the old days, that was the only way that they could get the software was directly from their FMO. And so you had advisors that didn't really want to use it because they were worried, what if I leave the FMO, where does all my client information go, et cetera. So I think that was a big shifting point for us when we decided again to open it up and really offer it to everybody.
And another thing too is when we became web-based. Okay, so before you had to have it, you had to download it on your computer. I remember those days, right? Brooke, you went back further than I do on this, but when we went web-based, I'll tell you, and then we've had a version upgrade and stuff like that. I mean, those kinds of things make the program look beautiful. I mean, we're really into the appearance and how simple it is. I'll tell you a quick funny story. We have our newest people become our beta testers on new functionality. And you might ask, well, why? Because it has to be simple enough for people that don't know how to use the software. Once you know how to use the software, you can't be that beta tester for simplicity. You see, so this is the kind of stuff we go through. But yeah, the user interface, I'm proud of the way we went web-based, and it was a big step for us. But we've been web-based for a while now, and yeah, things are going real well. So yeah, that would be the big thing for me, I think.
Peter, I know you had a lot of learning curve with some software, and those same software is super robust, but it was like, hey, if you can't figure out how to use it, then screw you. In a sense, to be completely honest, like if we're just, let's call spades.
Not wrong.
What was your, and I went through that same learning curve with the same software actually, but mine was years prior to that. So yours is a little more recent. So I kind of want to extend this question to you, and maybe you can chat with Steve and Brooke about this a little bit, because it's maybe a little more fresh. It's still years old, but more fresh, I suppose. What was your experience like coming in, like knowing something was going to be so good, but if you can't figure it out, screw you, versus the mentality that Steve and Brooke and Retirement Analyzer has adopted?
Yeah. No, and I've actually had this conversation with with people that are getting into using software platforms like, not like Retirement Analyzer, but CRM based stuff that are super robust and they do all sorts of cool stuff. And they sign up for it. They're excited. They're ready to go. They get this thing and it's like getting a brand new Corvette on Christmas morning and there's no car keys. It's like, well, you can look at it. It's right there. You can go touch it. You just can't drive it. And it's frustrating. It's infuriating. Where it's like, man, I know that this thing is the answer. I just got to figure out how to turn it on, right? And not all platforms and programs are super intuitive. Retirement Analyzer actually is. Brian let me go in and take a look at it, and he showed me some demo stuff a couple times, and it's super intuitive. But that's not the case with all the software platforms out there, specifically the CRM based stuff. It's like there are some that, I mean, they'll do everything, including making you a cup of coffee in the morning, if you tell it how to do that.
Yeah.
And very few people know how to tell it how to do that, you know?
Peter, I agree with you too. I mean, the most intimidating feeling, okay, and Brooke and I have discussed this at length, is just everybody's all excited. Wow, I download the program, an icon appears on my desktop. I click it, and there's nothing there except blanks. What do? You can't, right? So what we've discussed and what we have now is when you get a trial or when you get a brand new version of the software, it's going to be populated with sample clients. So you can see, you don't have nothing. It's a double negative. My dad would kill me for that. But you know what I mean, right? You're without nothing. That's better, right?
Yeah.
But basically, you look at sample clients and see how to build certain things in. So we're into that. Hey, I have the program now. What do I do next? Kind of stuff. And a lot of people just fail from there. And so we need to hold their hands, and that's what we do at Thomas Gold.
Yeah. Role modeling is huge. Having those sample clients built in, that's huge. Role modeling is how you get stuff figured out. You know, that really is the most effective way to teach somebody, is for them to see somebody else do it and go like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You know, we had a webinar with 50 or 60 agents on it yesterday, and we were doing a training, and one of the folks in our community placed 100 apps, wrote 100 life policies in the last 12 months, which is, it's a lot of business. And so we had him on kind of talking through, and it's always great because those are the kinds of calls that really get people fired up, is they get to see somebody they can relate to, and they can go, okay, well, Tyler, how did you do it? Specifically, how did you do it? And he's there. Oh, I did this and this and this and this. And it's the same thing with role modeling, like with your demo accounts and demo clients. Like, what should this thing look like when it's all done? It should look like this. This is what it needs to look like. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Yep. And I'd say this too, no matter how hard you try, you could be the smartest person in the world. Brooke and I could do our best as trainers and teachers. What people listen to are other users using the software. So anytime that we can highlight, we'll have guest speakers and things like that pop in. We'll do testimonials. We have it every Friday, right, Brooke? I don't know how many we bring up. I mean, I can just think of like 3 or 4 the last couple of weeks that we've had testimonial wise on how they did it. We can teach it, but how did it happen in the real world, I think is important. So.
We actually do that at boot camp too. We do like a panel of advisors. Last time I think we had 4 that they come up and they talk about, the real life application of the tool and areas they're seeing it be effective, et cetera. People love to hear that.
So can we address the dark side just a little bit? But what I want to ask you, and I'd appreciate both y'all's perspective as well, is, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Where you're at right now, you've come all this way. You've done so many incredible things. Where you're at right now, what do you see is your biggest challenge or shortcoming right now? And what are you doing to address that?
I don't know if it's a shortcoming, but there's always a lot of companies in the rear view mirror, and you can't stagnate. So you see these programs out there, and they're built, and then they never change. They never do. You could go back 2 years later and say it looks exactly the same. What we do, and I talked about this constant development that we're in, we have things planned. I get an Excel spreadsheet like 5 miles long on the amount of upgrades that we're going to put into this. So I think we're always cognizant of who's in our rearview mirror, what's going on, who's around us, because we know that we can't stagnate. We have to make it better and better. We have all kinds of new ideas where you can actually, how about this one? You blink and you sell an annuity. That version is going to cost about $10,000 a month, guys. Would you buy it? Peter, you just blink and you'd sell an annuity. What do you think about that version? No, I'm kidding. But the point is, right? People want it to be easier and easier and easier. And we're kind of wrestling. Maybe this is a small little issue here. They want it to be easier and easier and easier. And we have to keep them being able to answer questions while we make it so easy. You can't just click a button and sell an annuity. You have to have reasons behind selling the annuity. So we have to kind of manage it being so simple versus still making you great while you're using something that's so simple, if that makes any sense. If we make it too simple, you get lazy and you're not on your game as much. So we kind of
And
balance that a little bit.
if you eliminate the advisor out of the equation, it sounds like a good idea. On the front end, it's like, oh, I'm sure carriers and companies have had that thought a couple times. Like, hey, if we get rid of the advisor, we just make it a real simple A/B yes or no kind of split test, and then the client clicks a button and the policy's bound, right? Or the solution's provided. In theory, on paper, that works right up until it doesn't. Right up until the client goes, I'd rather ask somebody a question. I'd rather get some instant feedback. I was just talking to an agent last night about, he does some CRM build out stuff, and he went through and built out this whole prospecting thing that was all based on AI and had automated assistants answering stuff. And he said, you know what, for the first week, it worked like gangbusters. And then after the first week, ghost town, just totally dried up. Nobody was responding to anything. It's like, because there's that balance point, right?
There is.
You want to take through and automate the things and make things easier that you can make easier, right? But you don't want it to be a replacement for an interaction with an advisor, because you can't program software for everything. You can program a lot of variables and a lot of factors, but there's that human factor that you can't program in, which is, hey, how do you, not only why do you want to do this, but how did you come to feel that way? What makes you think that?
I keep telling Phil, we've been talking a lot of agents are trying to figure out, how do I program chatbots? But what they don't understand is that chatbots and AI can't work a damn crowd. And Steve, you had mentioned it earlier, making that joke, having that sense of humor like that. And that's not the only thing, but it's that connection. Those things, they can't work a damn crowd. They don't have that intuitiveness. The minute you said batting your eyelash, or I'm sorry, blink, sell an annuity, I thought about a lot of gruff, heterosexual, male annuity advisors batting their eyelashes all of a sudden, just a whole lot, and getting filthy rich doing it. And I had this very funny visual. I was going to make a joke about it, but I didn't, because I didn't want to interrupt. But AI can't do that. Chatbots can't do that. You can't remove the advisor.
We're kind of back to, they buy you. They buy you. They buy the relationship. And then, if they have enough respect for you and everything makes sense to them, then they take the recommendations and they have a better a better retirement. So it all comes back to that, I think. I'm in Home Depot a lot. You put as many of those, check yourself out, whatever routines. I'm so old fashioned, I guess, Brooke, I don't know, but I go to where I can actually say hi to somebody and talk to the cashier. I like to talk to people, and I think we're in a people business is what we are, guys. So
I'm going to counter you with that. I like to talk to people, but Ace Hardware is over the top. I don't know if you've been in an Ace Hardware, like, leave me the hell alone. I'm here to browse. I'm looking for it.
they were helpful.
Just, you're too helpful. What are your thoughts? What's been, I guess, either is your current biggest challenge or shortcoming, or what are you looking to pour the most energy into to move forward, going forward?
I don't know if I would say it's a shortcoming, but I think it's a frustration point. You talk about the dark side, dark side of owning a software company. I think for Steve and I, largely is just the programmer piece. I mean, we have huge teams of programmers, but I tell you what, they are a tricky breed to deal with, because they think like a programmer. They think in a box and they only see the box, and they don't think about anything outside of that box. So I feel like that's a constant battle that Steve and I are facing, just to look over here from another perspective and trying to really bring that all together, because it's got to be easy. And, financial concepts aren't always easy. So that would be my dark side answer.
Peter, I see you have some context for that.
Well, I think with IT people in particular, there's 4 quadrants, right? And everybody can think back to a job where they had to reach out to their IT support people. And there's 4 types of IT support people. They're the people that are extremely technical and cannot talk to another human being to save their life, right? That's probably the person you want to fix your computer, but I don't want to go to dinner with them. And then there's the flip side of that. There's the IT guy that's super personable and couldn't tell that my mouse was unplugged. It's like, why do I have you? This is not the job. And then there's the unicorn, somebody that is extremely competent technically, but can also speak to people, you know? And then there's the last one, which is they don't know what they're doing and they can't talk to people. And they should probably just go back on the rock that they came out from.
Unfortunately, we've had 1 or 2 that fall into each of those categories. So
Yeah, we all know people that fall into one of those categories for sure. For sure. So if somebody wanted to set up some time to do a demo, to take a look at the software, ask some questions, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you guys and do that?
well, they can go to the website and register for a 14-day free trial right off of the website. But then, I think the biggest thing, and we've been talking about that today, is just don't be the person that creates the account and then never uses it. Use the tools and the help that we have provided. So we've got a power line that's open every business day from 7 to 4 Central. We've got the live trainings every day at 10 a.m. Central. So just use us. I think the biggest mistake advisors make is not picking up the phone and using the help that's there.
And one thing I'd say too, it's retirementanalyzer.com, unless maybe you said it, Brooke, I don't know, but retirementanalyzer.com. And they get everything a normal user would get in that 14 days, which is kind of cool. So they can attend those training classes as a trial. We kind of want them in there, and if we could kind of force them in, we would love to, to have them in there just so they could see. But those power hours, when there's no agenda, you could go in and ask any question you want, and other people are listening, and they all learn while we're answering a question for one of our users. So we highly encourage them to attend the trainings so they could get a good view in 14 days. I mean, it's not a real long time, but they'll have their sample files and they can see what's going on and they can get their answers, make their decision.
And then Carson, this is also, we have a link to Retirement Analyzer on the free sources page too, right?
Yeah. https://rev-as.com/free sources or revagencysyndicate.com/free sources, whichever you want to go to. But it's our preferred vendor page for this is our list. And Steve and Brooke, y'all are on it. This is our list of if we were going to do business with folks, who the hell would we do business with? Because we get that question 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 times a week. Who would you use for this? Who would you use for that? And you guys are right there on the list. So if they can't find your stuff, they can go find it on which we've got our preferred vendor pages linked all over for our folks. But your website is retirementanalyzer.com. And then Steve, I know you have the different website just to link up with you and do a demo with you, if I remember right.
Well, no, we have thomasgold.com also, though. So they can just call in, and the number's the same for both. But we can do a demo. We can put a demo together. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll come into Power Hour, that open webinar, and we'll do demos for people in there, 10 Central each day. So, guys, could I make one more comment, though, before we finish? Is it okay?
Please. Absolutely.
I think our strength is this, okay? There's all kinds of moving parts in a financial plan. And you know what, guys? I think everybody would agree that they change every year with these Secure Acts coming through and the amount of change that goes on. We have our tax updates and we update everything before the new year starts. We're there for you. You're going to have questions. We hold your hand for as long as you need it held. We'll get you ready for an appointment. As long as you pop the information in, we could show you how to navigate through the software. And our service, as I was saying earlier, is just really over the top. So I don't think you're going to find somebody that's kind of invested in you when you buy our software, because we want to make sure you get the most out of it and you're successful with it. So we offer that, and I'm pretty proud of that. And I think Brooke would agree too.
Absolutely. In fact, if you guys register for a trial, you will be introduced to Danielle, who tees up all of the trial people on our team, and she does a wonderful job. She'll literally hold your hand to get you up and running and acclimated.
That's awesome. Anything else y'all want to share? Where can are you on social media? Can they find you there?
We're not on social media as much. We're not. We don't really spend. We're so busy that we basically, you know what it is? It's been word of mouth that's grown our company, and the trial users keep coming and the new users keep coming in. But retirementanalyzer.com and thomasgold.com, and then you call in with any questions you have. They can find Brooke or myself, or we have a whole staff of people. We've grown from just Brooke and I, the two of us, about 15 years ago, to over 21 people now. And yeah, I mean, we're here to help. And I think that if you give us a shot, you won't have any regrets. We're excited to be able to, work with you, possibly work with you. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And when you get that feature, blink and you sell an annuity. I want it. 10,000 a month. Cool. Let's do it. I'm down for it. I will be your first subscriber in that regard. You got to let me know.
You got it, sir.
Carson, Peter, thank you both.
Thank you.
both for being here. Yeah, thank you both for being here. We'll see y'all later and we'll chat soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.